Hello again. Welcome to the Healthy Enterprise Podcast. If you're back for more, thank you for joining me. And if it's your first time, I hope you like this episode and you join us again. I'm joined today by Dr. Tia Warwick. She's the CEO of Lesous Consulting. She's a trailblazer in clinical research, professional development, and public health innovation. She's a certified global project manager, and she has a deep expertise in everything from AI software to epidemiology and global clinical trials. She's also an award-winning author, believe it or not, of Burst the Bubble, a look into careers in the pharmaceutical industry. And she's a passionate mentor dedicated to breaking down silos between healthcare, research, and education. So please welcome Dr. Tia Warwick. All right, Tia, thank you for joining me today. I'm looking forward to hearing about you and your company. So why don't you start by just doing an introduction of yourself and your business?
Thank you. My name is Dr. Tia Warrick. I am an epidemiologist by trade, and I am the CEO, Chief Executive Officer of Lesous Consulting. Our tag name is Where Success is Inevitable because we're truly trying to bridge a lot of gaps in the clinical research industry. And when we mean by clinical research industry, we're talking about biotech, pharmaceutical companies, and its relationships with working with academic centers and hospitals for the main goal of getting FDA approval and treatments to patients. And so our main goal for our company is to look at the educational piece as well as software to ensure we're streamlining efficiencies so that we can increase the success of a clinical research outcome.
Interesting. And Lesous is the name of the company, right? As you said. And explain what that word means.
Yeah, so Lesous is Greek. It just means a higher power. So it means that, the options of how far we can go, how high we can go is limitless. And that's what we're really trying to do. We're trying to break those barriers, remove those silos, and create a collaborative environment where we can achieve all the goals that we want and to provide treatments to patients who really need it.
I love that. It's good. There's no limit. I think that's really great. And you've had a long career in biology and epidemiology and health sciences and clinical health. And so what brought you to this stage? What motivated you to start Lesous?
Absolutely. So I have been working in clinical research for a long time. I started from literally the most entry-level position you can get in clinical research, which is clinical research coordinators. And I loved it because I learned so much. I got to work right alongside the medical doctors. I got to, speak with patients, have that interaction. It was an amazing experience where I was kind of thrown into the deep end and was just told, this is research, here you go. Figure it out. And it was fantastic. You either sink or swim, and I was surfing. I loved it. It was something that, came natural to me. And I just had such a passion about, figuring out, different puzzles and helping people. And I know there's a really bad connotation when we think about pharmaceutical companies, a mad scientist in a code or, some unethical aspects, but there's a lot of amazing people in the industry who are working to bring safe treatments to people who otherwise would have never had any option for a treatment for their particular disease. And so there's a lot of good, with everything there's good and bad. And as long as there's more good, then I think it's worth being a part of. And so I really started in the industry almost 10 years ago, and I then worked almost every job. So I climbed the corporate ladder, so to speak. I was then a clinical research associate, which are monitors that travels to different hospitals across the United States and internationally to make sure that what the doctor's telling us is true. Not that they would not tell the truth, but we have to make sure that if the doctor said that this lab result is this amount, that what they're telling us is true. Because again, because of HIPAA compliance, we often do not have access to the patient's records. So we would have to go in person and actually verify that. And so I did that for a while. Yeah. And then I worked my way up to being a clinical trial leader who basically oversees people who travel to the sites. Then I worked my way up to being a project manager who then oversees them and every other department. So about 800 plus people. And then over 2,000 on a global level, then the director. And then I got a really good hold on the industry, enough for me to stop wanting to be a part of the complaining of the problems that are there, the gaps that are there. And, I stopped preaching to the choir and said, you know what, I'm going to do something about this. There's gaps in training. There are gaps in accessibility. There are gaps in efficiencies. And I want to build a business that addresses that can see all of the different pieces and put them together and let people know that, yes, this is what your department does, but it fits into an overall picture and an overall story. And that's so important. So I wanted to build a company that really stresses professional development and efficiencies through education and technology software solutions.
Wow. So, and you identified these gaps along your way and every step of the way, but interesting that you finally saw this point where it's like, well, I want to be a fixer and not, a part of the problem.
Yeah.
So what are you finding now? Like, what solutions are you helping with now? Like, where do you find that the most value is for you and your company in the scheme of things?
Yeah. So, right now there's a lot. Every day I feel like there's a new company popping up, a new investor for this new gene therapy trial or a new treatment coming up.
So many.
And yeah, it's so competitive. There are a lot of now also private research centers that are starting. A lot of the academic hospitals that the big ticket names, they are inundated with so many different trials and all this different competition for patients that they're not actually, enrolling, or they don't have enough people to actually, enroll in those trials. And the people that actually need it are not in these really famous metropolitan areas that are really expensive, right? They're in the rural areas. They're in the areas that we forget about, so those are the pieces where, we are focusing on and helping shining light on creating those partnerships. And it's those hospitals or those academic centers or private research centers that may not have the training or even the experience with working with research, because historically we've gone to these larger institutions. And so they need educational courses. Courses such as, what's a good way of getting informed consent? A day in the life of a clinical research coordinator. What should you be doing? It's more than just going online and reading the FDA regulations or good clinical practice guidelines, because anybody can do that.
Right.
But there's actual logistical pieces of doing the job that is not necessarily uniform across all institutions, and not everybody will know all those nuances, and you need to wait years to obtain that experience. But what if we can accelerate experience through skills-based competency training and have really granular focused training on how to actually do your job? And it's really important. And the reason why it's so important is because 80% of clinical trials fail. 80%.
80%.
80% is a trillions of dollar industry. Wow. And 80% of clinical trials fail. And when we look at the reasons as to why,
that's a terrible batting average,
right? Isn't it terrible? And so it's so bad. And so it makes you think, what is the reason? And not the entire 80% is not because the treatment of itself didn't work. Yes, that accounts for a percentage, but a large percent of that is inefficiencies, administrative bottlenecks, and then of course, money, right? And time is money. Every time you do something, it costs money. It's just the way the world is. And so when you have all of these inefficiencies, you're costing yourself more money. If you run out of money, you can't go through all the phases of the trials to get approved by the FDA or your regulatory authority if it's in another country. And so with that being said, I thought, okay, if 30% accounts for this administrative bottlenecks, what is that? Like, what are those administrative bottlenecks? And there are two pieces: not enough training or staffing. And so people who are working in the industry are burning out because they didn't get enough training or resilience to be efficient in their role.
Right.
Not enough people know about it to actually then replace people who are burning out at these high rates. So it's kind of like a revolving door. And it's like a sink, and the sink is not retaining. It's just going down the drain. So it's not replacing fast enough. And then the other aspect is, the amount of paperwork that needs to get done.
Right.
And a controversial saying I used to say when I do my talks and I travel, I start with, people are dying due to paperwork, right? It's very, very controversial, but it is true. And so I wanted to really tackle the two really big things that I know that I have experience in, the things that I know I 100% can help others in, and that is through education. And then my background in epidemiology and big data analytics, technology software solutions. So we know AI is a big thing that is impacting every industry.
It's a tsunami. Yep.
It's a tsunami. It's a wave that's taking over everything. And so I wanted to get ahead of this wave because the clinical research industry is a dinosaur. It's very closed door. You got to know somebody to get in. It's very competitive, very stressful, but it's very rewarding, right? And so for me, where I see my company really helping is these academic institutions, providing them these courses for their staff and personnel that allows them to get these trainings that's highly specified for their role, exactly how they should go about logistically thinking, creating those hard and soft skills that you get only by working a job. But we don't have time, right? We have too many studies coming in, and we can't wait 5 years for somebody to get the hang of it. So how can we accelerate what it means to be experienced? And so that is what my courses are doing. And then, of course, if we're accelerating experience and people are getting the hang of it quicker, we need to also make sure they have tools that allows them to be efficient as their minds are, right? I don't know if you've ever tried writing and your brain thinks too quick before your hand can catch up.
Oh yeah.
So we need something to help. Tools are really, really important. So the way I look at AI in our industry, it's not to replace jobs, even though it will replace some in most industries. It's more so to be used as a tool like any other. And so the way we would use the tool for the AI software I'm creating is to look at efficiencies when it comes to like budgeting, it comes to contracting, feasibility, how to find sites, all those things are really difficult and takes a long time. A really good example is budgeting.
Right.
When we need to budget between a sponsor, which is a pharmaceutical company, and an academic center, it could take up to 7 months to a year to agree on a budget. On one budget. And all that time, you still have all of these people working on the study. You still have all this money, millions you're paying. And throughout all of that, you still can get to a point where they both walk away and they just can't agree to the terms. And so now you have to do it all over again with another site. And so it's really important to kind of think about what are those things that's taking a long time. Coverage analysis is huge. They have to check every single procedure or assessment we're going to do on a patient against Medicaid, against CPT codes. And then they have to get hospital pricing. And then they have to go back and agree with the pharmaceutical company. It takes such a long time and it's so much work. Yeah. So my AI software, Lesous, does all of that. You upload the protocol, it creates the entire budget, it pulls information from different sources and databases, it pulls publications, it builds the entire budget essentially. It also can streamline contracting, it can do feasibility. So it looks at epidemiological distribution. So if, let's say, a big ticket name of a university, I don't want to say just any name because I don't want to sponsor them or anything. Let's say a large,
just use XYZ.
Yeah, XYZ large university. Let's say they're doing a clinical trial and they're known, they're prestigious. They have all these, they want a big, a pharmaceutical company wants a big academic institution to say, we worked with this prestigious hospital for our treatment.
For sure. That gives them credibility. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. But let's say they only give them one patient and they need 50 patients to get good data so the FDA can see that you gave this drug to 50 patients and it looks like it was safe. And so, yes, we're going to approve this, to the next stage or something like that. You need good safety data. You can't do it with just one patient, even though you have this big ticket university on your trial. And so maybe that big ticket university is really shiny, but maybe the true patient's demographics for that is not at that big ticket university. It's at a rural area. Maybe it's in Montana. Maybe it's somewhere in Pennsylvania.
Right.
right? Where there's a large population of these patients, but there isn't necessarily a hospital that has the experience
Right.
to carry that trial out. But that's where that education gap is needed, because you're going to wait years and years and years, run out of money, never make it to the next stage, but at least you got the big shiny institution
Yeah,
name.
exactly. Right. Right.
And so for me, I want to make sure that everybody has equal and equitable access to clinical research. There are some life-saving treatments that are not approved by the FDA that has helped so many patients investigationally. And it's only those patients who have access, who are in areas that provide that. And so if you're in the luck
Right.
of the draw and you decided to live in this very, expensive area, or if you're not from that area, you're not going to have those opportunities. And so I'm just trying to create equity and ensure that people have the choice. They can still say no, they can still not trust it, but the choice is still there. And we're going to the populations that need it, that actually has it. And we can train these hospitals who are also very open to doing research. We can provide technology solutions and efficiency so that if they don't have as much personnel as a large institution, they have these tools that can make their job efficient and not burdensome. We can create resilience and prevent burnout. And we can create opportunity as well. And so that's really what my company does. And I'm so passionate about
Yeah,
everything that
you
we do.
are.
And I love it because it's such a gap. You have a lot of companies out there who are that do training and try to fill a gap, but they have not. They didn't start as a coordinator. They didn't go through all of the different pieces. They didn't learn the industry. They weren't in the gutter and then from going up. And it doesn't mean you necessarily have to start there at all, but to be able to truly understand the needs of the industry, you have to kind of be in it. You have to work in
Yeah.
those aspects to truly understand it. And so I got a really good grasp of what is needed, and I'm just trying to fill that gap, and I think I'm doing a pretty good job of it. So
That's amazing. I mean, I love, there's so many layers to this too. There was part you were talking about, training people and the lack of people,
yeah,
which isn't a problem that's going away anytime soon. So but the lack of people is a result, of a lot of different reasons, but burnout, like you said, is one of them. But I like how what the thing that you can alleviate is training people to fill roles, but also keep the flow of moving on in your career, right? Where you keep moving on and you go from this position, now you're going to go to this position, so that perhaps that would also maybe dilute burnout too. If people are moving on and doing new things and career advancing continuously,
yeah,
and in places where you don't have to move to a major center in order to be able to do that, you can stay in your more rural location in a smaller community, but still be able to get this kind of training and advance your careers and provide this very important clinical research to the larger centers, but from a more rural area. Did I
exactly.
get the picture?
That was beautiful. Couldn't have
Okay.
said it of myself. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Because I mean, I know some people will be listening who understand what clinical research is, and where it's utilized, and the various levels and positions that are involved. But what's great is that you've been there, done that, and now you can come to the table and say, "Look, I know how to fill these gaps." And I think it's cool that you've identified that education is the number one value that isn't being leveraged, and you're providing that link.
Absolutely. And there's so many courses on my website, from
Yeah,
every.
let's talk about that. Like, what kind of courses are you actually teaching, and are you online? Is it all online? Is there some in person? Fill us in on that part.
I have done some really cool stuff. So, like I said, I am on the AI train, but I am not for AI replacing people's jobs. I'm for
Right.
it enhancing us. Before we had computers, we were writing on notebooks. I'm sure people were terrified to type, right? At some point, we advanced. This is just the next thing in the evolutionary process of technology, right?
Yeah.
And it's just how we decide to use it. And so I decide to use it as a powerful tool to make me more efficient, or make the people around me more efficient. And so for the courses that I have courses anywhere from pharmacoepidemiology, which is a big word. It just means epidemiologists looking at, adverse event data to make sure, to look at trends or detect how safe a treatment actually is in larger populations. And so there's that. There's all these different types of jobs in the industry to start off with that. So that's just one example. If you want to be a clinical research coordinator, I did a talk at the Association of Clinical Research Professionals conference back in New Orleans in April, and my talk was talking about site management for clinical research coordinators, and I introduced something called the SAS framework. And people loved it. They did hashtag Let's Get Sassy, and I absolutely loved that. I was like, this is awesome. And it was just basically to show how they can use tools to make their jobs more efficient. And so they really, there was a lot. There was about almost 400 attendees. Most of them were coordinators, and they really enjoyed hearing those tools. So it was definitely a gap. Being able to see that is one thing, to know that, right? But to be able to be in the room with people who live it every day, it was definitely, it had a different energy to it, and it energized me even more to kind of solidify that I am doing the right thing and I'm going in the right direction. And so I have courses for that. So how to be more efficient in site management, how to essentially a day in a life of a coordinator. What are some logistical aspects you need to learn? And there are a lot of clinical research courses out there, and they mostly focus on discussing regulations. What is good clinical practices? So important. They should do all of those. You need to know the foundation, but I'm more about application, right? They don't need another foundation theory course out there. They need an application course. How do I do my job? And how do I do it well? And so my courses are very specific. There are notes and toolkits and ways to go through, different segments of learning, logistical aspects. And these courses, they depend on what the course is. They have different modules. Some can be done in 1 hour, some are 80 hours. It really depends on the course and the topic and how much is needed to make sure you have everything you need for the topic, right? Every topic is going to be different. What I built in was live feedback. So it is all online, and you do get certification. So after you complete it, there is a certification that you will receive. And also throughout all of it, if there's a question, I built agents that are live feedback tools that I've trained that can answer these questions. So you would be getting scenarios. So you're a coordinator, you have a clinical research monitor, you have the doctor, you have a nurse, you have the patient. They have this question about this protocol. How would you handle the situation? They would literally have to put that in and kind of go through it and say, okay, well, I'll handle the situation like this. And there will be feedback aspects based off of their responses. So it's very interactive.
Right. Wow.
Yeah. So
That's incredible.
Yeah. Thank you. So it's like, it allows them to not just put the theory into practice or application, but they're truly applying
and they're engaged.
What they're learning.
Yeah. Exactly. That's a great way to learn. I mean, we all learn in various ways, but engagement, audio, video, like all those ways, you'll get something into them.
Exactly. So there's full flip cards. There's some video links that they can read, some articles. There are quizzes built throughout, and then there's also those case scenarios where they will have to respond, and then and it gives them an opportunity to make those scenario mistakes in their minds, because all too often, if you make a mistake in clinical research, it's really detrimental in one way. It's either going to cost money to the client, which is a pharmaceutical company. Mm-hmm. It's either going to maybe violate compliance, which is a deviation, or it's going to cause an audit. And especially at a site, if a medical doctor is trusting a clinical research coordinator with collecting this information, and we're dealing with investigational drugs not approved by the FDA just yet. So it's highly monitored, and not documenting things correctly, or maybe they didn't know, right? Or didn't receive the proper training. So now that doctor is at risk of getting written up by the FDA. They're at risk of getting debarred from the FDA. And
that's serious.
Yeah, it's very serious. And the FDA could pause the entire study until they look into this. So it's very important.
Which could probably take another 8 to 12 months.
Who knows? Yeah. right?
Right.
So like who, and so that all of it, all of those things. So
Yeah.
making a mistake is expensive in clinical
Yeah.
research, and we're human and we're going to make them. But what are we doing to mitigate that? What are we doing to reduce it as much as we can so that we don't have 80% of trials failing, right? So,
Right. Yeah.
and so that's really what I saw. And so many amazing people working in the industry. They work so hard on the study. Hundreds of people have to work together to make this work, from data management to safety to clinical operations. So many people, manufacturing, who has to ship the treatment to this. Everybody has to work together.
Yeah.
And to know that all these hundreds of people are working together and they want to achieve this goal. And it's a really hard, industry to be in, because you just see failure all around you. It can be a bit discouraging. You can definitely burn out fast, but it is so
Yeah.
rewarding when it works. If you manage to make it over into that 20%, it's the best feeling in the world, knowing that you help get a treatment to market that really actually helps people.
Yeah.
And so, and that's another thing. It's more so when treatment actually gets to market. I know there's a lot of these connotations. Well, it doesn't matter because it's going to be so expensive, and the pharma company is just going to, charge a bunch. And it's not true. It's just thinking about before it even got to humans, they did 10 years of preclinical data on animals.
Right.
And that cost millions, if not billions of dollars. And they finally made it to humans, which cost another millions of dollars. And if there's all these bottlenecks and the trial went on way longer than it needed to, how are they recouping all of that? So unfortunately, it does fall on the consumer. So by having this education, by having these efficiencies, by creating a more efficient process, it takes less time. Thus, it will take less money. Thus, when it finally makes it to market, it can be more affordable for the consumer. So
Right.
these kind of upstream effects have downstream detrimental aspects on the people who need it the most. And so I think that, my company being that kind of gap filler is really important. Knowing that how our population is aging and people are just getting sicker, and there is a demand. And so I just want to make sure that demand is going to be equitable for everybody.
What was the moment when you knew that this is what you wanted to do? Like, was there something were you doing some training on the job at one point, and you were like, oh, I really like teaching people stuff? Like, what was the tipping point for you that you decided to do this?
Well, funny enough, I'm also a professor.
Oh, really? Just add that to the list. Oh,
Let me
yeah.
add that
I'm a
split.
professor, by the way.
I am a professor, by the way. I teach courses in epidemiology, biostatistics, in the master's public health program. I actually created the program at Juniata College, and I love teaching. I always loved teaching. So I was a kid. I got this chalkboard for Christmas, and I would play school with my little siblings. I would write on the chalkboard. And so I always loved teaching. I always knew I wanted to teach.
Right.
Didn't think that I could somehow create an environment in which I can teach and like make a difference professionally in the industry. And it's such a hard balance because people usually think they have to choose between their passions. And
Right.
I say absolutely not. I don't like choosing. I like doing whatever I want. So I like, I like the sky's the limit. That's my
Right.
mindset, right? That's
That's
why
right.
that's the name of my
Lesous.
company at the core. Exactly. And so I always loved teaching. It's always something I wanted to do. It just didn't click to me until I was a global project manager, and I met this one client. We took a plane, we went to a site, an academic institution, and they were really green. Like the institution itself had experience with trials, but that particular doctor who was going to be the head person for that location, they never did any research before. So they didn't know, they don't teach you research in medical school. They teach you a lot of other important stuff, right? But so having to sit there, explain all of the things, go through the process of logistics, I don't know. There was a moment that just clicked, and it was just like,
The
I
light went on
really love this. I was like, I could do this
all day
every
long.
day. And just seeing it click in their minds and seeing how motivated and excited they are to make it work, and to deliver something really quality to patients, and to be a part of something. All the treatments that may have saved so many lives out there, it started with clinical research. It started with a doctor who decided to participate. It started with a patient who decided to take a chance on an investigational product. It started somewhere. And so I just love being a part of that, or just being a small part of that. And so that's where it just clicked for me.
I like that. That's great. That's a great way to start that career trajectory for you. And plus, you identified already that there were these bottlenecks. There were these major administrative or clunky and heavy processes that were in the
Mhm.
system. Which, I mean, I'm sure people who work in the system just love hearing that, because they didn't create the system, but they end up working in it and trying to do their best with a process that is outdated. And so I think what we're hearing a lot of is that with technology, AI plus the ability to teach people how to do things differently, it's opening doors up, and there may be a future where you might be able to clean some of this up,
Yeah,
because it's just been going on for far too long, right? And this is a way that people who are already in the industry can actually make a change from within by taking a course or several courses like this, and making not only a change for themselves personally, but also a change for the institution they work for, or the research center they work for, or whatever. But they're actually making a difference on the inside, right?
exactly.
Yeah, that's really cool. And so now, so when somebody says, "Oh, I'm going to take a course," who's going to pay for it? Are their employers going to pay for it, or is this on them for their own personal professional development?
I thought about that for a long time. And before I was just selling directly to organizations because that's where, they hire. And
Mm-hmm.
there's a training process anyways. And so there's a group aspects with organizations that they can purchase, access. And for a certain amount of users, they'll have access to all the course for a certain amount
Wow.
per year. Um, but then I thought to myself, there were some people reaching out to me at conferences and just like, well, I'm professionally developing and I want to be able to put this certificate on my resume. I want to be able to say that I'm doing the work. Kind of like, people get their Sigma, black belt, yellow belt. They want to be able to show that even
Right.
though I am not employed right now, they want to use it as an opportunity to say that I did take this course. I do have a strong understanding. I do have the skill set. I am confident that if you were to hire me, I would be able to carry this out and carry this out confidently. And that's where that skills development and experience is accelerated because every company wants 5 years plus experience, but no one wants to give somebody a chance to be experienced. So how does that work?
Right.
How do
Right.
we fix that? I can't fix that for every industry, but I can fix it for this one. And
Yeah.
so I then ended up doing both. So people can either pay a monthly access to have all the courses, or they can have an option of just purchasing one course outright. But then organizations can buy it in bulk as well. So I do have it open to both individuals and organizations.
Yeah, that's great. That's really good. So, is it part of? Is it something that is an extension of larger universities or colleges? Is it? Is it? Are you?
No,
Is
it's
that
my
your
own
goal to
LMS.
go there? What's
Yeah, so
that?
my own personal LMS that I created. I was on Moodle for a while, and then I moved to my own personal LMS. It'll take you straight on my website. As soon as you go to the homepage, it says join a course. When you click on that, it takes you straight into the LMS where you can sign up. Um, and you'll be able to access those courses within the LMS. There, it's amazing. Like I said, there's communities. So if you're a project manager, it's not like necessarily like a LinkedIn where everybody's connecting and try to. It's more so I'm a project manager, and without judgment, without the performance of I have to be so professional. Like on LinkedIn, I feel like sometimes it's a little bit performative. I'm a part of that. Everybody posts when they get an achievement, posts when they get you know
Right.
this and that, and it's like this constant performance thing. Through the LMS courses that people will take, they can join these communities. If they're a project manager community, they're literally all already set up. They can click join the project manager community, and they can ask questions that they're maybe not sure of, maybe they're embarrassed of, they don't want to be judged at work. And it's just a community of people to help make them stronger and confident in their roles. So not only can you take the courses, but you can go along for the ride with other people in those courses too. So I just wanted to create a safe learning environment and space where people can commune, discuss without judgment, and learn, accelerate their skills and develop. So, yeah.
Amazing. So let's talk a little bit about you. How do you market yourself? Like, how do people find you? And what did you do? What was the first thing you kind of did to sort of promote Lesous and the program?
So I just working in the industry for a long time. I had
You knew everybody.
Rolodex. Yeah, the thing. It's a huge industry. It's not one of those industries where you can literally just place an ad. It is such a secretive industry because everything's a CDA, everything's an NDA,
Right.
right? Everybody's
Right.
working on proprietary information. So it's not like I could just put an ad on LinkedIn or something. That would have been much easier. But you really
Yeah.
have to be in the industry and you had to work on those networking. You had to know someone. You have to remember the research manager at this organization you worked on in a study, and you reach out and say, hey, this is a need. Going to a conference and really talking. And I met so many amazing people at conferences who I'm in partnership with, businesses and academic centers alike. So I think my best marketing is speaking to people. I really am able to connect with them. And yes, I can send a really good professional email, but like it's so cold. That's why
It's not the
called
same.
a
No.
cold outreach, right?
Yeah. And you're a great speaker. So I think people kind of are really drawn to hear you and listen to you. So I can tell, that would be a great way for you to build rapport with people for sure.
Yeah.
And you do other things too. Like you help people with career planning. You do things like help them with their own personal or professional branding and how to prepare themselves for their career advancements. And so, yeah, tell me what made you got into that kind of side of things too. So not only you like educating them and helping them kind of make their way in their role, but now you're also like, hey, let's rebrand you and let's help you find your next dream career.
I that one I kind of fell into.
Yeah.
People heard my story, and I personally go my whole life without like bragging about that. I'm just passionate about the work, but for me, I skipped a grade in high school, graduated with my bachelor's early, graduated with my master's, and then I was first person ever in my doctorate program to finish it in 1 year. So like it was like, so I graduated with my doctorate degree at like 23, turning 24.
Holy, wow, that's
And
amazing.
thank you. And then I kind of like skyrocketed in the industry so fast, and I caught on to things like it was so easy. And so people, I kept getting reached out by a lot of people like, hey, how do you do this? Can you be my mentor? And then it kind of just became a thing. And so like, I was winging. I didn't have like, everybody who falls into that, they create this beautiful branding package. Like I just did this. And if you follow these steps, no, everybody's different. Everybody's path is different. Just because I did that does not mean that I'm somewhat better than you at all. No, that's just the path that I took. I'm an absolute nerd. I have an eidetic memory. I just catch on to information fast. That doesn't mean anything, right? Because people
Right.
are smart and they don't do anything with that. And so it was more so, I think when people have an idea of what they want, it's helping them match their ideas to reality. And then after we align it with reality, is it still something that they want? Because you can think that this is what you want, but then when you actually understand what you think you want, do you still want it? And if you do, fantastic. I can help you.
That's a very good point. That's a very good point. Because how many kids, come out of high school, go to university, they spend 1 year, maybe 2 years, and they go, I don't want to do this, and then they feel, this sort of sense of, well, I don't want to waste the last 2 years, but I don't really want to go any further. Like I find a lot of people hit that block, at some point in their life, and maybe not always when you're right out of high school, but at somewhere along your trajectory of your career, you do hit those kind of roadblocks, don't we?
Yeah. Even 30 years in, there's people says, I've been doing this 30 years. They wake up one day and they're like, I just can't do this for another day. Like I'm sick of it, and that's perfectly normal. That's perfectly fine. And it's more so whenever your reality hits and you're ready to kind of think about what are those steps that you can take. I can help with that. So when people reach out and say, well, how did you do this and how did you do that? I'm not a gatekeeper. I'm more than happy to share the information. More the merrier, but it's more so not try to replicate what I've done, but try to think about what you actually want. And once you know that, once you find your niche in your pocket and you know that this is what you want, everything falls into place so beautifully because all the steps after that, helping you visualize what needs to get done. I'm just an organizational machine. So it's like, okay, this is where you are. This is what you need to get to where you want to go. And for a fact, this is what you want. Some people, they talk with me and then throughout discussing the process, they're like, actually, this is not what I really want. And I was like, well, it is okay. But once you figure that out, let me know because once you know, it'll happen. And I think when people have that goal set in their
Mm-hmm.
minds, that's it. It happens. You have to manifest and envision what you actually want. If you don't really know
Mm-hmm.
where you're going, you're never going to get there. So,
Do you
um,
find some people tend to do it the opposite, where they know what they don't want, but they don't necessarily know what they do want?
absolutely. And I love that part. It's like the process of elimination. I feel like I'm being a teacher in that moment. I'm just like, okay, so let's think about the things. What are the careers you've wanted? We list it out. Some of them are all over the place. Some say, well, I wanted to go to nail school and I also want to be a lawyer. I was like, well, those are opposite effects, but let's keep going. Whatever it is, no judgment. Just give me all the things you wanted to be in life. And you'd be surprised. People want to be so many things that has literally nothing to do with each other, but they each, it's because they had either an interest or a passion, or they just have skills that just fit and make sense. And once we align with those things, we go through, all right, do you want to pay for school? Do you want to go back to school? Right? We ask these questions like, how much years are you willing to
To put
spend
into this, yeah.
to put into this? How much money are you willing to put into this? How much time are you willing to put into this? Do you want to just work a really good job where you're passionate about it, but your passion is not your career? Your passion is living life and funding your life with your family, making memories. And that's a lot of people now. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it's finding the balance. And
Mm-hmm.
out of that list, if you're passionate about all, what can actually fulfill you enough on the inside, but then not just about the work, but about throughout your entire life. So it's
Right.
going through that and really talking to them, learning them. It's way deeper than just, okay, this is what you want to do. Here you go. It's really a process. And so when people ask me, what did I do? I say it just, it depends on the person, because I did what I did because I didn't want to pay for a lot of tuition. So I really had to finish school fast. I was working 4 jobs in undergrad. And that was my biggest motivator. Two, I honestly need to be challenged to do well. I work exceptionally well under pressure and I get bored very fast. If I'm not doing a lot of work, I will get distracted. I will get bored. I need to be challenged and motivated to do well. So I took on a lot. That's just my personality. So it's not just because I did this, you will be successful too. If you're not a
Right.
person like that,
It
it's
won't
not going to
work.
work for you.
No.
And
No.
and so it had nothing to do with more so anything other than, you can be successful too. I mean, the founder of KFC wasn't successful until he was like 83. So like, it really doesn't matter where you are in your timeline, or what
That's right.
anybody else is doing, right? It's
That's
more
good
so,
advice.
what
Yeah.
do you want out of life? And it's okay if it's more than just a job, right? Most people want more than just a career.
Yeah.
And how do we find that balance? So I help people as like I like to call myself an holistic life architect. So like,
Yeah. Oh,
architect your
nice. I
entire
like
life,
that.
not just, your career, but yeah.
Architect your life. I like that. Nice. Um, what name one of your biggest challenges in your career, and what you tied into to overcome that. What was one of your biggest obstacles?
Personalities.
Hmm.
There are a lot of egos and a lot of rooms.
Mm.
And I am such a I like to bring a warm energy to whatever room that I go into. I like to bring positivity. I truly think how you what you emit into the world is what you get emitted back.
Right.
Even if they're trying to emit something different, it will literally, you can change the entire tone of a room just by how you decide to respond in an environment. You can't control that environment, but you can control how you respond.
Right.
And so for me, there's a lot of people in the industry who have been doing things a long time. It's a dinosaur industry. It's old. And it's okay. So people are set in their ways. Even though the system is not perfect, it's a system they know. So why would
Yeah.
they, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? They're
It's
comfortable
very
with it.
familiar. Yeah.
They know it. And humans, it's just our behavior. We do not like change. And that's
No.
fine. And also people who have been doing the job 20, 30 years. Here's this young 27-year-old coming in a VP exec position saying, hey, let's do all of this. Like, who are you? I've been done this job longer than you were alive. Like, why are you even in this room right now?
That's a tough spot to be in.
That is perfectly understandable. They have been doing the job for 30 years and I can learn so much from what they have to say. But they shouldn't count us out. We can help with perspectives. And I think that, a lot of people who are up and coming, early career, they may feel discouraged, but I would say just be positive. Just know that there are egos. People just most of the time wants to feel like they're heard and listened to. And even if you're met with negativity, still emit positivity. You can't control how they react. But usually it turns around. And so for me, the hardest things when I first started in the industry, I took it to heart because I have such a big heart. And like, I wish I could be so positive and just like, oh my gosh, well, I didn't mean to offend this person. And I would go home stressing about it. And my husband's like, don't take this serious. Like, this is not something to worry about. And like, but I care. And
It's them, not you.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was really hard because when you're such a passionate person and you care, you can take things to heart. But I had to realize people are just going to be how they are. Right. And so it's learning to navigate those personalities and growing that thick skin, which I happily have done. And it's been fantastic. I've been in rooms where people won't even acknowledge me. I've been in rooms where people have acknowledged me, but only for the mere fact of testing my knowledge. And I've been in rooms where people are just fascinated by me. So it's not just one thing, right? You never know what you're going to walk into, but always walk into it with a smile and it'll make a big difference. And so, when I deal with difficult personalities or egos, I make sure that they feel like they're heard. I let them know that it's not on me to make them feel comfortable, but it is on me to make my environment comfortable. And if that's what I need to do, then that's what I'll do because I am a survivor. I learned how to adapt in situations, and I learned how.
Those situations that you were in, you were actually pulling them out of their comfort zones, right? And that's how they're reacting.
Exactly.
They're reacting to their discomfort. They're not necessarily looking at the people. They might be looking at the person going, wow, you're making me feel this way. But, in actuality, we're just, they're feeling very uncomfortable and very unfamiliar. And you're the catalyst for that. But we don't grow. We don't grow or evolve unless we're learning something new.
Yes, exactly.
And sometimes it requires, someone has to, push us a little to.
Exactly. And I make sure like in those situations, I mostly ask them about I make sure like if I know who I'm going into a room with ahead of time, I do learn about them. You have to always be prepared. And I do think about, hey, what is one thing about what they do I really don't know anything about?
Right.
I make note of that. And if they, once I meet with them, I ask whether I feel like they have an ego or not. I still ask. And it changes the entire dynamic when somebody feels like they can help someone. Because I know what it feels like to help others. This is why I do my business. Obviously, a business is a business, but if you can do a business and help people, that's phenomenal. But yeah, so I know the feeling, what it feels like to be able to help someone or be able to think that you can contribute in some way. And so I want everybody around me to feel that way. So if they do feel threatened, I do, make sure that they have the opportunity to let them know that, hey, you can teach me something too. This is not a one-way street. This is a collaborative environment. So
what a great approach. Awesome. Tia, thank you so much for sharing all this with me and to our listeners. And I'm sure there's people going to be out there going, oh, I need to learn more from this woman. I need to find her. So how would they find you? How will they find your courses?
Yeah, so they can find my courses on lesousconsulting.com, directly on my website. I am also on LinkedIn. I have Dr. Tia Warwick is where you can find me. I have my company on LinkedIn as well. And right on my website, you can click the join a course button and it'll take you straight to the website. There's also a contact us form. Feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. Feel free to email me. My email is also available online. I'm very open and collaborative to all walks of life. No matter where you are, I meet you where you are. So that is where you can find me.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your time today. I've really enjoyed getting to know you and learning about you and your company. And I wish you the best in the days ahead.
Thank you so much. It was great to be here.
Okay, another great conversation there with Dr. Warwick of Lesous Consulting. I was particularly struck by her journey, starting at that entry-level position and working her way up to a director role, which gave her such a deep and understanding of the industry's gaps. And she's really leveraging that knowledge and pouring her passion into fixing that 80% clinical trial failure rate. Wow, what a number. Not just by addressing a lack of training, but also tackling administrative bottlenecks with AI, I mean, she's inspiring for people in her industry. They would be very impressed, I think. And I also loved her holistic approach to career coaching, not just about the job, but about architecting your entire life. I like this episode. I hope you like this episode. Please don't forget to subscribe, share it with a friend, and be sure to go visit Lesous Consulting website if there's some training there that you'd be interested in. Until next time, thanks for listening and stay healthy.